Some things you can only believe if you see them, and even when you see it, you still wonder, is this really happening? That's exactly how I felt when my friend's brother called me, desperate, saying that a woman had turned up with a positive pregnancy test and was demanding money. But not just any money. She wanted a lot. But calm down. Let's start from the beginning. My friend's brother, who I'll call Ethan, has always been a quiet guy. He never got into trouble. He was always discreet. But there was one thing. He was rich. Not the kind of rich guy who inherited a family business, but a business genius who made his fortune before he was 30. And that, my friends, is practically a magnet for women. He met this woman at a lavish party with champagne and falsehoods, where everyone pretended to like each other. She had that classic look of someone who enters the room analyzing who can pay their bills. Pretty? Yes. Intelligent? Maybe. But above all, clever in the art of manipulation. Their relationship lasted a short time, something like 2 months. Ethan never took it seriously, but apparently she did. Because one day, out of the blue, she showed up at his house holding a pregnancy test. With that Mexican soap opera look, dramatic, theatrical, almost fainting on the doorstep, and saying that she was expecting his child. Ethan, poor thing, was in shock. Because, for him, the chances of that happening were exactly 0. He'd always used protection, never left any room for error. And out of the blue, this bombshell? But the girl was there, her eyes full of water, her hand shaking, and a positive test right in front of him. And that's where the most absurd part comes in. She arrived talking about money. Not a, let's talk. Not a, we need to understand what to do. Nothing like that. She got straight to the point. I need a guarantee for the baby. You're a successful man. You can't just leave me to it. What did she want? $100,000? Yes, 100,000. Like someone asking for a favor. Like someone asking for an Uber to the airport. Ethan, still trying to understand if he'd just walked into an episode of a bizarre reality show, asked what exactly that money would cover. She giggled nervously and replied, well, new clothes, good food, a good health plan, that sort of thing. New clothes. Because, of course, the baby hasn't even been born yet, but the mother already wants to renew her closet with a sponsorship. The funniest thing? She said all this holding an $8 Starbucks coffee, taken from a bag that cost more than rent. Ethan called me after that meeting, desperate. Something was very wrong, and he was right. This pregnancy smelled strange, and I decided to investigate. If there's one thing I've learned in life, it's that the more desperate a person is to convince you of something, the greater the chance of it being a lie. And Ethan's pregnancy story was screaming gulpy from afar. After he called me, I went to his house to understand the details. He was still a bit pale, staring at nothing, as if he'd been punched in the face. And, in a way, he had. Only the punch came in the form of emotional blackmail and a piece of plastic with 2 pink stripes. Dude, she brought a pregnancy test. I saw it with my own eyes. Okay, does a positive test prove anything? It proves that someone is pregnant. But does it prove that it's his? Absolutely not. I asked to see the test, and he pulled it out of his pocket. Yes, the guy was holding that thing like it was an official document. I took it and stared at it. It seemed strangely generic. First of all, there was no brand on it. It was one of those cheap drugstore tests that anyone can buy, use, and then keep forever. Secondly, it was dry. Nothing new. Because I'm not crazy enough to want a used test fresh out of the toilet. But something told me that it might have been old for a lot longer than it should have been. So I suggested the obvious. Why don't you ask her to do another one in front of you? Ethan's eyes widened as if I'd invented a cure for cancer. Because, until that moment, he had been so lost in blackmailing his wife that he hadn't even thought about it. He texted her right away. Okay, I want to talk about it, but I want you to do a test in front of me. And her reply came too quickly. You don't trust me? That's humiliating. If you don't believe me, then forget it. I don't need your money. Pause for thought. If someone really was pregnant and wanted support, wouldn't they be willing to prove it simply and quickly? But this woman freaked out immediately. If she expected Ethan to sign a check just because she showed up with a dry test in hand, then she clearly underestimated his intelligence. Only now I was obsessed. I had to find out what was really going on. I spent the whole day thinking about this story until, in the evening, I had a flash. What if the test wasn't even his? If there was a possibility that it was bought, stolen, or even forged, then there was a way to find out. And the solution was on the internet. Some people waste their time watching investigative series. I prefer to solve real-life cases. And the story of this supposed pregnancy was too poorly told for me to simply ignore. After her overreaction to his request for a new test, my mind went into overdrive. If I didn't want to repeat it in front of him, I had something to hide. But what? I started searching online. I typed in something ridiculous like, how to fake a pregnancy test, just out of curiosity. I expected to find some crazy forum theory, but what appeared on my screen was much worse than I imagined. There is a parallel market in positive pregnancy tests. Yes, you read that right. There are people selling them on the internet. And I'm not talking about the deep web or something obscure and secret. It was all there, out in the open. Ads on sales sites, posts on social networks, comments from women offering their tests to anyone who needed them. Some advertised it as if it were the most harmless item in the world. One said she was 5 months pregnant and had several available. Another promised to send it by post, and even offered a video of her holding the test as proof, in case anyone wanted to cheat on their boyfriend in a more convincing way. But what made me want to bang my head against the wall the most was a comment I saw on one of these ads. A woman asked if the test came with a durability guarantee because she wanted to keep it for a few months before using it in a scam, as if she were buying a bottle of wine to open at the right time. At that moment, it became clear to me that Ethan's wife wasn't the least bit original. If there was a whole market for it, she'd probably bought a fake test. But how could I prove it? How could I link her directly to one of these ads? That's when I had a rather absurd idea. I did something that might have bordered on criminal, but damn it, it was for a good cause. I created a fake profile and sent a message to one of the sellers. I asked if she still had any tests available. The reply came quickly, almost as if she was waiting for someone like me. She said yes, that she could send them by post, and even accepted payment by app. My heart raced. If this woman had really bought such a test, perhaps she had paid online. Maybe she'd left a trail. I just needed to figure out how to get my hands on this information, and I already knew where to start. After discovering that there was a whole market in positive pregnancy tests for sale, I knew for sure that this woman had bought one. Now all I needed was concrete proof. I wondered how to get this information without her getting suspicious. The first thing that came to mind was the basics: a cell phone. Nowadays, nobody does anything without leaving a trace on their phone. Whether she bought the test online, paid for an app, or even talked to someone about it, her cell phone knew everything. I just needed Ethan to play it green and pick it ripe. I suggested he send a casual message without sounding suspicious. Something like, "If you don't want to do a test in front of me, at least tell me where you bought this one. I want to understand it better." Her reply was a spectacle of drama. It started with, "I can't believe you're questioning me," and ended with, "You've hurt me deeply." But in the midst of her emotional outburst, she let slip an interesting detail. She said that she didn't need to give any explanations about her personal purchases. Shopping, plural. If she bought a test, there had to be a trail, and I knew exactly who could help me find it. I called a friend of mine, Josh, who works in digital security. I asked for a favor, without going into too much detail. I just said that I needed to find out if a certain person had made a suspicious transaction in the last few days. He laughed and asked if it was a matter of life and death. I said no, but that it could be a matter of $100,000. It took Josh less than 2 hours to send me a message. "You have a transaction made through the payment app the day before." Small, but interesting. My heart raced. I knew it. She had paid someone, and the amount was too small to be anything else. We got the name of the recipient. I did a quick search, and, surprise, it was the same name as one of the women who sold positive pregnancy tests online. That was all I needed. Now there was no doubt. She had bought that test. The scam had been exposed. Now I just had to decide how to use this information. I could simply expose everything and finish her off right there. But where was the fun in that? I wanted her to fall into her own trap. So I decided to wait. And when she least expected it, I would turn the tables on her. Now that I had proof that this woman had bought a fake test, it was up to me to decide how best to finish her off. I could just throw the information in her face and watch the circus go up in flames. But where was the fun in that? No, she needed to feel the weight of her own blow before she fell. I told Ethan to act like he was falling for her. He needed to show regret, show guilt for having doubted, and, above all, make her feel victorious. The more comfortable she got, the bigger the fall. So he sent a message. "Sorry, I guess I got nervous and reacted badly. Can we talk more?" Her reply came quickly. Of course it did. An opportunist who is an opportunist never lets money go cold. She arranged a dinner at his house that evening. She wanted to discuss plans for the future, which basically meant that she wanted to make sure her paycheck came through soon. At the agreed time, she arrived all dressed up, with impeccable hair and Instagram makeup, looking like she'd just won the lottery. She sat down at the table, crossed her legs, and started talking about responsibilities, planning, and how she wanted her pregnancy to be a special moment. Ethan stood there, listening, nodding, pretending to take it all in. She spoke as if she was already signing a contract for a comfortable life. And that's when he dropped the bombshell. I spoke to a lawyer today. He told me that, before we make any financial arrangements, it would be best to do a DNA test, just to make sure everything is right. The silence that followed was golden. The kind of silence that only happens when someone realizes they've been exposed, and there's no way out. Her smile froze. Her crossed legs uncrossed. Her face began to lose color. First, she tried to laugh. Then she tried to play offended. "Do you really think I'm lying about this?" But then came the most beautiful part of the whole story. Ethan took out his cell phone and calmly opened the page of the website where she had bought the test. The same ad, the same seller's name, the same transaction she had made the day before. She looked at it as if she were seeing a ghost, and it was at that moment that she knew she had lost. There was no shouting, no fussing. She simply picked up her bag and left, without saying a word. The next day, Ethan received one last message from her. He blocked it without even reading it. And that's how a $100,000 scam turned into a free ride out of his life. Have you ever come across someone like that in your life? The kind of person who tries to get the better of others and thinks they'll never get caught? Let me know in the comments. And if you like this video, don't forget to subscribe and like it. Want more stories like this? Then click on card and come marathon. See you in the next video.